If you are starting a wedding photography business in 2024 and you are trying to figure out how you're going to pose your bride, your groom, and your wedding parties throughout a day, I'm gonna give you our 5 go-tos at every single wedding. If we shoot a wedding, no matter how long it is, we make sure that we hit these 5 no matter what. I'm gonna break down the prompt behind each photo. I'm gonna break down the pose as well and why they are some of our favorites. Let's get into it. Now, before we get into these poses, I just want to highlight the fact that these photos, the majority of these photos at least, come during the portrait session that we generally suggest our couples have between the ceremony and the reception. Now, every wedding's different. Sometimes you might have that in the morning pre-ceremony if they do a first look, yada yada. But these are always going to come during your bride, groom, and bridal party kind of hour to 2.5 hour time alone where you get to spend time with just them. That'll be the easiest time that you can get away with these couples and actually make sure to run them through these poses, make them comfortable, and just have a good time with them. So that's a preface before all these poses, because if you try and get these in between, before a ceremony or something, when you're kind of just running around, a lot of these take some time and effort. So make sure that you have that time set aside to go through all of these poses and these photos. So first and foremost, the number 1 on the list is, and I think one of our favorites, is the contextual wide. So what we love to do is we make sure that we get at least 1 to 2 photos in different spots, in different areas of the bride and the groom in some sort of wider context. Now, we always make sure that that reflects the couple and where they're actually getting married. So in this case, this was Justin and Alana 2 years ago. They got married not too far from this river, and we just found this spot. This was the area that we selected for portrait photos and bridal party photos, and we just thought the sunlight looked awesome. But we posed them in the middle of the frame. That's generally always what we do when we pose in these contextual wides, is we pose them in the middle. Now in this case, we chose to have them both facing the same direction away from the sun. We thought it just looked a little bit more kind of cinematic that way. Another example of this would be the wide of Brett and Tamaya here in the middle of the frame this time, not off to the bottom middle, but actually right in the middle, really drawing all that attention to them. And they're actually facing opposite direction. So generally in these photos, you'll find in these contextual wides, generally rule of thumb is we either get them to face each other or face opposite directions. So in the case of this one, Mitch and Alana, 495 here, they're actually facing together in the context of these chestnut trees, just to make sure that you get the context of the sky, but all of that empty space actually leads the eye to the two of them, and they're just sitting there facing each other, just kind of lovey-dovey, and we love that. Another example of that would be just a wider shot, same idea with them, except it's a little bit of a more landscape shot, same idea, they're facing each other, just cropped a little bit differently. And the other one would be Kirsten and Ben here in the exact same spot, just with smaller trees a few years previous, but they're doing the opposite. So they're actually looking away from each other. This is just something that we ask the couple to be stoic and nice and cool looking, and this just really adds to the whole overall environment and context of the actual wedding. So that's pose number 1. Pose number 2, we love to get, as long as your couple is comfortable with physical affection, so that's always something we make sure to ask ahead of time. We'd like to get really nice and close. So right here with Bailey and Dylan, this is a prime example. We like to get them touching cheeks and just whispering sweet nothings into their ear. So that's usually what we do. Sweet nothings, or the prompt generally is we'll actually tell the groom to whisper something, and now we won't go into detail as to what you're whispering, but whisper something into your significant other's ear to make them laugh or smile or whatever it is. So in the case of Darian and Maddie, it's the same idea. So you actually pose your opposite arm, your opposite hand on the opposite cheek, and you're going left cheek to right cheek or vice versa, and then you're kind of cradling their face and you're just kind of nuzzling into their ear and whispering something. So in this case, Darian and Maddie, obviously Darian had something something funny to say. And same as the right here, Justin and Alana as well from a few years ago, they did the same thing. So Justin obviously whispered something sweet and cute, and it worked out for such a beautiful photo. It's a really easy way of getting a couple comfortable in front of the camera too with this pose. So we really love doing this one. A variation of it in this photo with Leah and Adam from this last summer is you can actually have the groom hold the bride's face just like this, kind of cup their chin, and what you're gonna do as a prompt, instead of whispering something in their ear, you're actually just gonna hold them and kiss them all over the face, and you're just kind of kissing all over. Basically, the prompt is you kiss them everywhere except on the lips, and that usually creates some cute little photos for your bride and groom as well. So that's number 2. Number 3, we always make sure to get the bride or the groom leading the significant other in a wider context. So we just love this pose. We love this look. It adds a little bit of dynamic movement to each photo. So that's why we usually do that with the bride and groom. So in this case, Ben is leading Kirsten in front of this beautiful, beautiful barn. Or another example of this would be Bailey and Dylan, where Dylan is leading his bride and they're looking back at each other. And so it's either, the prompt usually is one is leading the other with one a few steps ahead of the other, and you'll usually invite them to look back at each other lovingly, or kind of stoically lead each other onwards. But that's another example of another one that we tend to get at pretty much every single wedding. It's just nice and easy. It's nice to add a little bit of a, generally we do a wider shot for this one, so add more context as well to the wedding day, but that's another easy pose for number 3. Now, number 4, we love to focus on the bride, right? So often the bride will have dreamed about this day and the wedding dress specifically for years and years and years. So we always want to make sure that we're honoring that in the photos that we're taking. So in this case, we love to have this pose called the bridal look back, I guess you could call it something like that, where you'll pose the bride on her own in front of something that actually draws the eye. So in this case, it's in front of a church with Leah, and just the architecture right here really draws the eye to that dress, the hair, the veil, the flowers, and we love to use this pose to really highlight the bride, and these tend to be some of our favorite photos from the day. Another example is a slightly tighter shot where you actually get a little bit more depth of field. You have your bride look over an opposite shoulder. That's generally the prompt. This is more of a posed one. It's less of a natural kind of look, but it's very posed, very classic, timeless, looks really nice. And especially when you have architectural features like this, it really drives the attention to that dress, to the bride. Another example of this would be right here. This beautiful staircase, the light was coming in just through the one window, and the dress had some very interesting lacy features that I really wanted to show off. So we had just the light spilling from the side of the window just really drive the emphasis on that dress here and the bride and her hair, and this ended up being one of our favorite photos from the day, from Mitch and Alana as well here. So that's pose number 4, is going to be that bridal look back kind of dress show off type thing. So make sure when you're doing this pose, you're really finding an area. Oftentimes we actually use a little bit of height to elevate the bride. That way you're actually driving the focus on the bride. And generally this is actually taken vertically rather than horizontally. So this is less of a wide shot and more of a vertical shot as well. And lastly, one of the poses we always make sure to get at every single wedding that is so easy to forget sometimes is the couple smiling at the camera. If you forget everything except this, just remember this. Always make sure to get a photo of your couple smiling on their wedding day, just looking right in the camera, like Leah and Adam here, a big old smile, or like that last one I just had, Ben and Kirsten. It's a happy day. They need to remember that they were paying attention, that we weren't posing them the whole time, right? Because our job as photographers is to be partnered with them all day and to make sure that they remember this day. And our job is also to make sure that, we're reflecting their day and the fun that they had. But sometimes it's always good to have, for the parents and family, a photo of the couple actually just looking right into the camera. So that's going to be pose number 5. We've got plenty more poses, but that's just going to be 5 that we make sure to get at every single wedding of the bride and the groom together during that portrait hour session. We've got lots more poses where that comes from. So if you're interested in knowing more or learning more about wedding photography, wedding videography, like the video, comment, subscribe, follow along on the journey. I'm looking forward to giving you more tips and tricks, as we have been in the wedding photo game for about 5 years now, and we're looking to help people out because we started on our own and learned from the ground up, and we'd love to be able to partner and help you out. That's all I got for you. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.